Hello children, how are you all? I hope you all are doing well. So today we will learn about seed germination and dispersal. So today in this chapter we'll first understand about seed. What is a seed, right? And what it consists of, basically the structure of seed. And then what is the purpose of a seed, right? Like the purpose it is to grow. So how it grow, right? How it germinates, and then how it basically completes its next step of basically growing. So how it disperse, what are the different types of seeds, and what is the use of seeds in agriculture, right? So let's get started. So look at this picture here carefully, right? And tell me, you eat different types of seeds as food, right? Can you identify them? Match the picture with the names of the seed given in the picture here, okay? So in the food that we eat multiple types of seeds. For example, we eat rajma, we eat chole, right? Then we eat different types of pulses. We eat chana, right? These are all what? These are seeds, right? So can you identify them here? So it is talking about pea, right? So where is pea? So pea is here, right? Then papaya. So here is papaya. Then mango. Mango also has seeds, right? Mustard. What is mustard? Here it is, right? Then gram. So where is gram? Here it is. And wheat. So this is wheat, right? Now let's go to the next page. Now let's first understand about seed, okay? So what is a seed and from where it comes from, what it has inside it, okay? So seed, right? Seeds are very important source of food. All the grains that we eat are seeds. Some of the species we use are seeds. Some seeds are very small while some are very big in size. So basically students, whatever we eat, right, most of them consist of seed. For example, if we let's say talk about chapati, right? Chapati comes from wheat, and wheat is what? Is a seed. Then let's say if we talk about dal, right? We consume dal with chapati. So dal is what? Dal is itself a seed, right? Then there are a lot of things that we consume are mostly coming from seed only, right? Let's say we talk about the jeera or the mustard, right? That is also a seed, okay? So some are very small, some are like quite big, okay? For example, if we talk about cardamom, right, that we use in the tea, right, it's a significant amount, right? It's not very small, but if we talk about very small seeds, right, mustards are small seed, okay? So these all are what? Different kinds of seeds, okay? Now let's understand the structure of seed, okay? How a seed looks like from inside, right? What are the different parts are there? So structure of seed. So seeds, all seeds, right, consist of different parts and they have different shapes and sizes. So a seed has following part in it. Let's say first we talk about the seed coat. Let's begin from the outside, okay? Seed coat. What is a seed coat, right? What is a coat firstly? Coat is something that we wear from outside, right? So similarly, seed coat is something that seed wears from outside, okay? The thick outer covering of the seed is called the seed coat. So the thing that from which the seed is covered from outside, right? Have you ever eaten the rajma, right? So if you have ever eaten rajma is basically covered from a dark brown thing from outside, right? And from inside it is something whitish or off-white color, right? So the thing that covers it from outside, the dark brown thing, is the seed coat, right? It protects the seed from the physical damage. So as our coat protects us from weather, right? Extreme weather. Similarly, the coat, the outer protecting, covers it from the physical damage. Okay, the seed coat has the tiny opening called the micropyle. It allows the water to enter inside the seed. On the side of the seed there is a scar called hilum. This is the place where seed is attached to the fruit. Now understand here, this is a seed, okay? We talked about seed coat, but seed coat has a very little opening so that the exchange keeps on coming, right? So that the water from the outside can enter inside. So this opening is called the micropyle, okay? Micropyle is the opening in the seed coat. And on the side of the seed, in the seed there is a scar, right? There's a scar which is called hilum, okay? So this place where seed is attached to the fruit, okay? Seed is basically attached to the fruit is called the hilum, okay? Have you ever seen a mango fruit? So there is a seed inside it, right? So the point from where the seed is connected to the outer part that we eat is called the hilum. Now next come the seed leaves or cotyledons. Now beside the seed coat, what else you see here, right? The seed that we actually eat, right? Those are called cotyledons, right? If we remove the seed coat, we find fleshy part of the seed. This is called the seed leaves or cotyledons. Cotyledons store food for the growing embryo inside the seed. Cotyledons protects the embryo also. So the part that we eat, right? The part that we eat are basically what? The food, okay? The stored food, and that are called cotyledons. So have you ever seen the rajmas, okay? It looks like this when we open it, right? It breaks into two equal parts. So these are cotyledons, right? The thing we are talking about. Now next comes the embryo. So it is the baby plant inside the seed between the cotyledons. It contains baby root, which is called radicle, and the baby shoot, the plumule. So next thing that is there inside the seed, which is very like small, we have to very keenly observe to figure it out, okay? So when you open this thing, right, you will see very small root type thing coming out from it, right? Have you ever seen the sprouted chana, right, or the sprouted rajma? There's a very small thing, white thing that comes out of it. That is the baby plant inside it, right? That's called the embryo. So the root is called the radicle, and the shoot, right, that will in future will become the leaves is called the plumule, right? Now let's go to the next page. Now let's understand the types of seed. Till now we have understood the basic structure of seed, right? That we can even understand just by looking at the seed. Now let's understand the types of seeds. So there are two types of seed depending on the number of cotyledon and the food storage, right? We talked about cotyledon, right? That's the part that we actually eat, right? And the cotyledon basically stores the food, okay? That's the energy giving part, right? So have you ever seen a chana, right? The chana seed, right? It can open into like this. It can open into two, right? It can be divided. But have you ever seen the bajra or the wheat seed, right? It looks like this, the wheat seed. This is the chana seed, right? The wheat cannot be opened into two, neither the bajra seed, right? It cannot be opened into two parts, right? Just like chana can be opened into two, rajma can be opened into two, right? So therefore, on this basis, it is divided into two parts, two types of seeds. One are monocot seeds, monocotyledons, right? Other is dicot seeds or dicotyledons. So as the name suggests, you might have understood by now. So some seeds have only one seed leaf. One seed leaf, we are talking about this, right? One seed leaf. They are called the monocot seeds, such as wheat, maize, rice, right? and some seeds have 2 seed leaves, just like this. Okay. So they are called dicot seeds, such as mango, gram and pea. Alright students. Now, this is how a monocot seed look like, right? Just like corn, right? Corn cannot be broken apart into 2, right? There is no natural separation in that. Now, if you see the dicot seed, right, there is a natural separation that you can see easily, right? Just like in the chana seed. Alright. Do you know some seeds found in frozen soil in Canada were grown and they produced flowers? The seeds were thought to be more than 10,000 years old. So basically students, seeds are basically has stored food in them, right? So that they can grow anytime when they get the favorable environment for them. In Canada, there was a frozen soil where seeds were there, right? And many years after, they produced the flower. Basically, they grew. And this happened after 10,000 years old, right? So this can also happen. Why it was able to happen? Why this happened? Because the seed basically remains in the dormant state, right? It stays in the dormant stage until and unless it gets the right environment to grow. Alright. So the frozen soil was not the right environment to grow for the soil, for the seed. But as it got the right environment, it grew even after 10,000 years, right? Now tell me, which part of the seed protects it from the physical damage? Okay, we discussed that, right? So this you have to answer. Now let's talk about what happens to the seed, right? We talked about seed, we talked about the different kinds of seeds, right? But what happens to the seed? Like, what's the purpose of this seed? Why the plants produce a seed, right? So, the next topic is our germination of seed. So, just like in this case, when the seed got the right environment, it started to grow, right, into a plant, and then flower came, then the fruit came, and the seed came finally. So, this is the purpose of the seed. It continues the cycle, okay, of the plant. So, the seed germinates. A single plant produces many seeds, but all seeds do not grow into new plants, okay. So, when plant grow, it finally produces seeds, and it produces many seeds. But there is no chance that all seeds will produce in a plant, alright. So, there is a possibility that some seeds might grow and some cannot grow, right. So, why do not all seeds grow? Because there are some reasons. Some seeds may get destroyed by the wind and the rain, right. There is a possibility that some seeds get dispersed through wind or maybe rain to some area or to some soil which is not favorable for it, right. This is a possibility, right. Now, in that case, the seed will not grow. Another case, some seeds are eaten up by birds and other animals, right. So, since seed contains what? The energy source, right, the stored food. So, birds and animals also eat them just like human beings. So, in that case, those seeds cannot grow. Sometimes, they do not get favorable conditions, right. Just like in this case, where in Canada, the seed got in the frozen soil, right. So, until and unless the seed gets a favorable condition, it will not grow. Now, the process by which a seed grows into a new baby plant is called the germination of seed. Alright students. So, when the seed gets the right environment for its growth, right amount of sunlight, right amount of water, right amount of nutrients from the soil, and right warmth, right, from the sunlight. By then, right, after getting all this, the seed starts to grow into the baby plant, and this process is called the germination of the seed, right. The seed requires following condition to grow into a baby plant. So, what are those conditions? Let's understand that. First and foremost is the water, right. Now, the seed coat softens on observing water. The root pushes out through the seed coat and into the soil. Have you ever seen the rajma or chana seed, right? Have you ever tried to push it, touch it or press it, right? You must have felt that it is very strong, it is very tight, right? But when we eat it after cooking it, it becomes soft, right? Or if you say, let's say we sprout it, right? We put some chana or rajma into the water, soak it for overnight, and we'll see the next morning it becomes a little soft, right? So basically, when the seed coat, the outer coat absorbs water, right, it gets softens, and that's the start of the germination process. See, it is very simple. The seed has to germinate, it has to grow, it has to open up, right? And when it will open up, then slowly it will turn into the baby plant, okay? And that's the purpose of water. That's the purpose of water, okay? So as soon as the water is absorbed by the seed, it gets softened, okay? It gets softened, and that pushes out the seed from the seed coat into the soil, okay? So students, let's say this is a seed, right? This is a seed, and there is a seed coat outside this seed, okay? Only when this seed will break this seed coat and come out, it will start to grow, all right? And that's the reason the purpose of water comes into play, okay? Here the water of purpose comes into play. As soon as the water is absorbed by the seed coat, this seed coat gets softened and it breaks, and the seed comes out of it into the soil and gets the right environment for itself, right? Now let's go to the next page. Now next right environment for the seed to grow is the air, okay? So air is the second important thing. To get energy from food, oxygen is required. The seed gets oxygen from the air. See, we also take in oxygen, right, to get to make energy inside us. So to get energy from the food, right, oxygen is required. The seed gets oxygen from the air, okay? Next is the warmth. What is warmth? Warmth is basically the temperature, right? Basically the heat, okay, that it gets from the sunlight. So most seeds require a temperature of 25 to 30 degrees Celsius for germination. Very low or high temperature can destroy the embryo, okay? So warmth is also necessary. See, if there's a very hard thing, right, the seed is basically a very hard compact thing. We have to provide the water, right air, and the certain heat, the temperature, so that it gets open up, right? It cracks, it opens up, and then slowly start to grow, right? Now after getting all this, the air, the warmth and the water, it starts to germinate. Now let's understand the process of germination. So what happens exactly in this process? All right. Now just looking at this picture, let's try to understand what happens. Here is a soil and a seed inside it, right? So until now there is no changes. Can you see the different kind of changes that is happening, right? But until now there are no changes, okay? As soon as the water goes into the soil, can you see the little white thing coming out of it? That's because the seed got the water, right? The seed coat opened up. Now, after it got what? The sunlight also, the warmth also, right? It started to grow. Grow into what? The first leaf came out, right? The first leaf came out slowly. Air is also present From air it got oxygen also, and slowly it started to develop the root and the upper part, that is the shoot, which consists of leaf, right? So this is the stage of germination of seed until it becomes a plant. So from seed to what? To what? Plant. Right? Now, do you know some orchid seed pods hold 3 million seeds? So there are some plants which holds many seeds. How much? If we talk about orchid seeds, right? Orchids seeds are present inside a pod kind of thing, right? And it has millions of seed in it. So can you tell me now what makes the seed coat soft? We discussed it very thoroughly, so you have to answer this now, right? Now let's understand this process step by step. What happens? So firstly, seed swells up, getting water, and seed coat becomes the soft, right? So as soon as the water interacts with the seed swells up, getting water, and seed coat becomes soft. It becomes soft. Next, what happens? Enzymes are activated inside. Food change in soluble form and gives energy to the embryo. Now, after it becomes soft, certain enzymes get activated, right? Certain chemical reactions get triggered inside the soil through which it starts to get the food, right? So the food changes into soluble form. Until this point, the food inside the seed was also in a hard form, right? As soon as it got the water, certain chemical reactions started to happen. The food also become soluble, so that now it can be taken up by the seed and it can provide the energy. Now, next what happened? The radicle starts growing first. It bursts the seed coat and goes into the soil to become root. Now, understand this very carefully. Whenever a seed starts to develop, right? Tell me one thing. Whenever you start to make a building, what you make? Is it the first floor that you make first or the foundation of it? It is the foundation, right? We work upon the foundation first. Similarly, when the seeds start to grow, it is not the leaf that comes out first. It is the root that comes out first. The plant holds onto the soil through the root system, right? It works upon its foundation. That's the root. Root, okay? So it is the radicle, this part, that first starts growing. It bursts the seed coat, right? And goes into the soil to become the root. Now, next, once our foundation is ready, we start to increase upward. We start to grow upwards. That is first floor, that is ground floor, first floor, second floor. Similarly, once the roots are ready, it starts to grow its leaves. So the plumule, right, from which the leaves will become, okay. Now plumule starts growing towards sunlight to form the shoot, the upper part of the plant. Now let's go to the next page. Now, once the radicle and plumule starts to grow in their direction, next what happens? It grows. Small green leaves develop and cotyledons are pushed out above the ground. Now, what happens? It grows. When it continues to grow, small leaves, green leaves develop, okay. These are called true leaves, okay. Two leaves first comes out of that plant, and the cotyledon, right, the actual seed that we actually consumes are pushed up, right, are pushed up like this. This is the root. These are pushed up above the ground. So the cotyledons comes out of the ground, up the ground. Now what happens next? Slowly and gradually the shoot elongates to form a proper stem and develops leaves. This is called seedling. Now this part continues to grow, okay. So slowly this stem part increases in size, okay. So next what happens? This is the root. root also grows. It grows in size, the stem grows in size, and the leaves comes out. Okay. This part is called the seedling. Now, next what happens? Now the leaves start making the food by the process of photosynthesis. Okay. So, after this process, the plant is now ready to grow in the full tree, okay, and to start the process of photosynthesis. Now, let's first understand few words that we recently read here, okay, the new words. So, first is the enzyme. What are enzymes? So, these are biological catalysts. So, let's say you are going from your home to the school, okay, but if somebody takes you on a bike or car and drops you to the school, what will happen? The time becomes very less, okay. You will reach to your school in a very short period of time, very quickly, right? And that is exactly the enzyme, okay. So, in your case, it was the bike or the car that acted as an enzyme, okay. It fastened the process. Similarly, there are a lot of reactions that keeps on going on inside a cell, inside a seed, right, inside plants. But enzymes fastens that reaction. They increases the seed, increases the speed of that reaction, all right. Now, next is the radicals. So, what are radicals, plumule? Now, radical is the root part, okay. The part of the plant embryo that develops into baby root, okay. So, this is the first thing that grows out. What's the second thing that grows out? It is the plumule. So, the part of embryo that develops in the baby shoot, okay. The baby shoot is called the plumule. Now, what is elongated? Elongated means to grow in length, all right. Now students, can you tell me what conditions are required for the germination of seed? All right. Now, let's do an activity, okay. To understand and to study the conditions required for seed germination, right. We just talk about the whole process. Now, let's try it out, okay. So, what are the things? We'll read glass tumbler, water, all right, glass slide and the seeds. So, bean seeds or whatever you have. So, what we have to do is fill half of the glass tumbler with water, tie 3 bean seed with glass slide, place it inside the tumbler as shown in the figure. One seed is completely immersed in water, second seed immersed half in water and the third uppermost seed in the air. Leave the tumbler in water in the warm place. Keep the water level same by adding water to it daily. Now, after a few days, you will find second or the middle seed is germinating. Now, let's student to understand the conditions required for the seed germination, right? There were 3 conditions, right? What were those 3 conditions? Tell me what? Quickly tell me what are these 3 conditions? So, first was air, second was water and third was sunlight. Okay. Now, what we have to do is, we have to take a glass slide, put 3 seeds in it, right. Basically, we have to stick it or tie it, right. Now, what you have to do is, take a glass tumbler, fill it with water, okay, and carefully place this slide such that one seed completely get immersed in it, second seed is half immersed and half above the water, and third seed is completely in the air. There is no contact of the third seed to the water, right. And you have to keep it like this for few days, let's say 2-3 days, all right. After 2-3 days, you will observe that this seed, right, which is partly under the water and partly towards the air, right? It will starts to germinate, right? Why? Through this experiment, we understood that germination takes place only when a seed gets all the three things, right? All the three things, like, right, what is that? Water, air, sunlight, right? If we talk about this seed, which was in the air, this seed was getting the air, getting the sunlight, but no water, right? If we talk about this, it was getting ample amount of water, it was immersed in water, it was also getting some amount of sunlight, but there was no air, right? So air was not there. But in this case, the middle one that germinated, it has all the three things. It had sunlight, it had water, it had air also, right? So it is very important to get all the three, right? Now let's understand the next stage of seed, that is the dispersal of seed. So basically it is not the stage, I would say, but what happens to the seed, right? It is a part of cycle, it is the part of the life cycle of seed. So as soon as the seed grows, the plant grows, plant bears and produces seeds, right? But what happens to the seed? The seed basically disperses, right? So farmers sow seeds at a distance from each other. You must have seen that, right? It is because the seedlings requires adequate amount of sunlight, air, water and also nutrients to grow, right? Now let's go to the next page. So if these seeds grow very close to each other, they will compete with one another for space, sunlight, air, water and nutrients, and hence will not be able to grow well. Many of them would die. So nature has therefore developed some methods to scatter the seeds over large distances. This is called dispersal of seeds, right? So have you ever seen that in agricultural fields, generally how farmers put their seeds? They grow like this, at distance, right? At distance, this is how they grow, right? They never put like seeds just like this, or more, or all the seeds in just one place, right? They never do like this. Why? Because just now we read that they need three things: air, water, sunlight, right? Air is there, okay. Sunlight is there, that is also okay. But nutrients and water, right? So if we'll put all the seeds in a very small area, they will have to compete for it, right? They will have to struggle for it, for getting the water, for getting even also the sunlight and also the nutrients from the soil, okay. So that's why nature has itself developed a method to scatter its seed over a large distances, right? So what nature has developed? A method where a seed produced from a plant doesn't fall immediately here, rather it travels long distances, right, through natural medium like wind, water, through birds. We'll read this, right? And this is how they get scattered away. And therefore, as a result of this, they don't feel any scarcity and therefore they can grow. Alright. So the scattering of seeds away from the another plant is called the dispersal of seed. So this process, right, this is the plant where seeds were grown, right? But the dispersal to different places is called this dispersal of seeds, okay? So seeds are dispersed by wind, water, animals and explosion. They are called agents of dispersal. So nature has designed ways. What are those ways? Let's study that. What are the ways of dispersal? So first is dispersal by wind. Some seeds are carried away by the parent plant when the seed blows, such as cotton, dandelion and maple seeds. These seeds are usually small and light-weighted. These have wings or hair in them which help them to float in the air easily. So you must have seen these types of small plants, right? So these plants are very fragile, right? Whenever you touch them, right, they'll start, something like this will start flowing in the air, right? So these are basically seeds of dandelion plant, right? So there are certain plants whose seeds are very lightweight, right? They have natural, you can say, wings or hairs, right, in them, so that as soon as the wind blows, their seed starts to fly. Their seed starts to go away with the flow of the wind, right? And through this floating method, they get dispersed to different areas, right? Now, this was one method of seed dispersal. Second is dispersal by the wind, by the water. So now, seeds of some plants such as coconut and lotus have a fibrous or spongy covering. This helps them to float on water. Water carries such seeds from one place to another. So you must have seen that whenever you will put coconut in the water, you must have seen coconut floating near the rivers, right? So coconut has a tendency to float. Why? Because first it is hollow from inside, and second, the outer covering, right, the outer brown covering is very fibrous, right? It is very lightweight, and that's the reason it floats on water, right? Everything that is light and hollow flows on water, right? This is very simple. So nature has designed some seeds, the plant of some seeds, such that they can float on water, right? And when seeds can float on water, they can easily float and travel to large distances, right? Let's say from one bank to the another bank of the river, from one part of ocean to the another part of ocean, right? This is how they can get carried away by the water, right? And this is how the seed of some plants get dispersed by water. So what are the examples? Lotus fruit have seeds that get dispersed by water. Coconut fruit have such seeds that can get dispersed by water. Third way of dispersal is by animals. Now since these seeds have what? Have energy, have stored food. So these are also eaten by animals, right? So when fruits are eaten by animals and human beings and their seeds are thrown away, such as mango, watermelon, apple, etc., these seeds grow into new plants when they get favorable conditions, right? So animals eat these fruits, these seeds, human beings also eat these seeds, right? And when after eating they are thrown away, right? Let's say we were there in the farm, we plucked some, let's say, mangoes. We came back to home, we ate mangoes, and then we'll throw off the seeds, right? The mango seeds or the watermelon seeds, right? We'll not go to the farm again, right? We'll throw them somewhere else, okay? Maybe in the dustbin or maybe outside our home where there's some soil, something like that, right? So this is how the seed gets dispersed from one place to another, right? Similarly, what happens in case of animals? They eat it, and sometimes in case of squirrel, they eat it and they sometimes just drop the seed there only, right? And squirrels and animals are such beings, they travel to large distances, right? So this is how also that seed get dispersed, right? Now let's go to the next page. So seeds of some plants such as coquelbut, burdock and tiger nail seeds have hooks or spines. These hooks or spines easily get stick to the fur of animals or clothes of human beings and are carried away to the other places. These seeds also grow into the new plants. So, now some seeds have what? Some kind of hooks, some kind of spines. They have a tendency, they have a structure such that, spines and hooks, such that they get stick to the fur of animals or the clothes of human beings, right? And this is how they get carried away to the other places, right? So, can you see these types of seeds? Can you see these seeds? How different they have? How different they are? Anything that has spines will naturally stick to another thing, right? Next method is through explosion. So, by dispersal by explosion, right? So, some fruits or pods burst open when they become dry, okay? The force of explosion helps the seeds to scatter away. This mode of dispersal of seeds is called explosion. Seeds of plants like pea, poppy, balsam, bitter gourd get dispersal by explosion. So, when there is certain amount of pressure that builds inside, right? When the pressure increases from a certain point, it gets opened up, it gets exploded, right? In the same way, when the seeds become dry, right? In case of pea and balsam, bitter gourd, right? When the seed becomes dry inside, right? And the pressure reaches a point, after that this pod opens up and bursts, right? With the force of explosion. And this is how, and when this opens up with the force of explosion, the seeds moves to different directions, right? And this is how it get dispersed. So, these methods that we studied, did you notice that these were all natural methods? There was no human intervention or some being intervention that was involved. Nobody was picking up some seed and putting some seeds at some different places. It was all natural. Wind, water, explosion, the kind of seeds, the shape of the seeds, right? These were all natural ways. Now, let's get to our next topic, which is agriculture, right? So, now these plants are basically what also used in agriculture. They are basically the main thing that is important for agriculture. Why? Because this is the thing that farmer puts into the soil, and this is the thing that we actually get nourishment from. So, plants are the main source of food. Agriculture is the practice of growing plants on a large scale of food and other purposes and raising animals. It involves growing of crops, and any plant that is grown on large scale for food, clothing or other uses is called a crop, right? So, basically farmers put different types of seeds. Maybe it could be of something that gives us food, right? It could be mango seed, or it could be wheat, it could be rice, anything, right? Or it could be something that gives us clothing, for example cotton or jute, right? So, these types of crops, right, these types of seeds that are grown in large number, right, for human population, these are called crops, right? These are called crops, and these are grown. So, this practice is called the agriculture. The practice of growing plants is called agriculture. Now, let's understand what are the types of crops. We first understood what is a crop. Any plant that is grown on large scale for food or for clothing. So, there are basically two types of crop based on the season in which they grow. Kharif crops and the Rabi crops, okay. As we discussed earlier, that seeds need some particular type of environment to grow, the right environment to grow. So, besides air, water and sunlight. So, if we break these three things into more simpler things, right? Are you able to see that air, water and sunlight is dependent upon the type of season going on? For example, if we talk about the rainy season, there would be ample amount of water, but there would be less sunlight, right? If we talk about winters, there would be more sunlight, but less water, right? But if we talk about the summer season, there would be very, very less water and huge amount of sunlight, right? Can you see this difference? So, based on these, there are two types of crop, Kharif crops and the Rabi crops. Now, let's understand about these types of crop. Now, let's go to the next page. So, what is Kharif crop? So, crops that are grown during the monsoon season are called the Kharif crops. They are grown between June and the end of the October. It includes rice, maize, cotton and groundnut. See, the crop that are grown during the monsoon season, okay, these are called Kharif crops. So, basically these are the crops that would need more water, right? The seeds are put into the soil during the monsoon season, during when the water is maximum, okay, in the soil. So, basically by this we can understand that rice, maize, cotton, groundnut, these are the kind of seeds that require more water, right? Next is the Rabi crops, okay. So, Rabi crops are the crops that are grown during the winter season, are called Rabi crops. They are grown between October and March and it includes gram, wheat, barley and peas. See, these are grown during the winter season, okay. So, and are grown between October and March, okay. So, by the time of February and March, they will be ready to get harvested. But the seed is sown during the winter's time, October, November, December, right? So, this means that they do not need much water, right? Rather, they need the chill, the cold temperature, right? And good amount of sunlight. Now let's understand these two new words that we read so far. So, first is agriculture. So, agriculture is the practice of growing plants on large scale for food and other things like clothing. What is a crop? A plant grown on a large scale for food and other purposes. So, do you know growing crops without using chemicals like pesticides, insecticides or fertilizer is known as organic farming. It uses only biological fertilizers and pest control required from the plant and animal waste. So, students, there are multiple ways by which farmers grow these crops, okay. So, there could be natural methods or they might put chemicals into it, right. So, there is one way which is called organic farming where the crops are grown by using only natural methods, which means the farmer who do organic farming don't use pesticides, don't use insecticides, do not use fertilizers, only the biological fertilizers, right, and the waste from the plant and animals, all right. Now, let's understand the process of agriculture, how this process of growing crop actually happens, right. Earlier we talked about growing about a seed, how a seed matures, but when we talk about agriculture, we are talking about large amount of seeds that grow simultaneously, right. So, what happens in the agriculture? So, different steps are followed in growing food crops, are called agricultural practices. So, first is the preparation of soil. So, firstly what we do, we prepare the soil, right. Loosening of the soil, leveling and adding manures and fertilizer to increase soil fertility are the steps for preparation of soil. So, what we do first? We level up the ground, right? We add manures, basically we enrich the soil, okay? We prepare the soil for the next step. We loosen the soil so that the seed can easily open up when given the right environment. Okay. This steps basically prepares the soil for the next step, which is sowing seeds. Okay. Now what happens is, carefully selected healthy seeds are sown at appropriate depths at proper distance from one another. Now, the seeds are sown in this process and they are sown at a specific appropriate depth, okay, and at appropriate distance, alright, so that they do not need to fight for their nutrients from the other seeds, right. Do you know, students, farmers use scarecrows, alright, to scare away birds from the fields. So what happens, students? In the next step, we will see when the crop are fully grown or are in their mature state, right? Since they have seed inside them, right? They have seed inside them. So they are subjected to eaten up by the birds or animals, and therefore farmers use a scarecrow, right? Basically a dead or a structure made up of plant and dead branches, right, so that they can scare the birds or the animals. Alright, now let's go to the next page. So next process comes the irrigation. Okay, so in this, supplying water to the crops is called irrigation. Water is very essential for the growth of plants. Water requirements of plants vary according to the type of soil, crop and season. So once the seed are put into the soil, water is supplied to the crops, okay, and this process is called irrigation, right. We understood through one experiment also, right, how important water is for the seed, right. So water is provided. Next is protection. Protecting crops from pests and diseases by treating them with insecticides and pesticides. So there might be some chances that the crop gets eaten up by the pests or gets diseased, right. So after supplying the water to the plants, right, and air and sunlight are automatically there in the environment, right. So up till this process, up till this step, can you see that we have provided the right environment to the soil, right. Next, the seed would grow, okay, the plants would grow. Now what can happen is, when they grow, there might be some chances that some disease or pest can infect the plants, okay. So after the plants has grown to some extent, we provide them extra protection. How? By putting some insecticides or pesticides. So this is one method. Another method is by putting bioenzymes, right, or by providing extra nutrients to the plant, right, by, for example, by providing them bioenzymes, right. So what are bioenzymes? These are basically enzymes that we get from plants only, right. For example, citrus fruits, by neem, right. These plants basically gives us bioenzyme, right, and we spray to the crops. This is the natural methods for crop protection. Next, once our crop is ready, it is harvested, okay. So the cutting and gathering crops either manually or by using machine, okay. This is the process where we harvest our fruit or the food. Now once the harvest is done, there's this large amount of fruit, grains that is produced. Now we store that. So the harvested crops are stored in safe, moisture-free places in big bins or jute sacks, just like this, okay. Now the process of growing crops on hillsides or mountains by planting on graduated terraces built into slopes, it reduces soil erosions and water loss also. So you must have seen in mountain areas, right, or in hilly areas, there is different method in which the crops are grown. What is that method? It is grown in this way, in a step thing, in a stepwise manner, right. And here the crops are grown. Why it is done so? First is because of the terrain, right? The land is such in those areas, right? Slope is such in those areas. So, firstly, to reduce the soil erosion. Whenever the water will flow, whenever the water, let's say rain, the water from the rain, whenever it flow, it will not flow just like this. This step will decrease the flow of water, thus reducing the soil erosion, right? What is soil erosion? The soil will not flow with the water, right? It will not get flown by with the water. It will stay in the place. Why? Because the force of the water has decreased by this method. All right. Now, let's see the new words that we read here. Okay. What were these? First is manures. The waste matter from animal put on the ground to make plants grow better. Okay. So, this is also added. The waste from the plants are also added to this process of growing crops to increase the nutrients. Okay. So, to give them more nutrients. Next is the fertilizers. This is a chemical substance that is put into the soil to make plants grow better. Okay. Next is pests, an insects or animal that destroys crops. Okay. Next is pesticides. So, again these are chemicals which are used to kill these pests. Insecticides are chemicals used to kill harmful insects, and harvesting is the activity of picking and collecting crops. Okay. So, students, these things, insecticide, pesticides, fertilizers, yeah, these are all what? Chemical substance, right, used in agriculture. But we can replace them using natural methods, right? Since if we put the chemicals into the soil, right, it will become what? Harmful, it will become toxic. All right. So, that's why there's also another method, that is a natural method that can be replaced for all these processes, for fertilizers, for pesticides and for insecticides. Now, let's get to the main points of this chapter. So, what we have read so far in this chapter? Firstly, a seed has seed coat, the outer covering, seed leaves, the cotyledons and an embryo, that is the baby plant. The embryo has two parts, plumule and radicle. Seeds are of two types, the monocot seeds and the dicot seeds. Now, let's go to the next page. The process by which a seed grows into a new baby plant is called seed germination. Air, water and warmth, these three things are required for germination of seed. The scattering of seeds away from the mother plant is called dispersal of seeds. And there are natural methods for the dispersal of seeds, that is wind, water and animals, right, the main agents of seed dispersal. The practice of growing plants for food and other things on a large scale and raising animals is called agriculture. A plant grown on large scale for food or other things is called a crop. Two types of crop are Rabi and Kharif crops. Now, students, let's get to the exercise of this chapter. So, we will go through each questions one by one, right, and then we'll try to solve one part of each question. Rest of the part you will do by your own. So, first is the tick the correct option. We have to choose the right option. The outer covering of the seed is called, it is called the coat, right, the seed coat. Next is match the following column. So, we have to match this column with this column, right. Let's say lotus. So, grown during monsoon season, grown during winter season, dispersal by wind, dispersal by water, explosion, have spines. So, lotus is most related to what? Dispersal by water, right. This is what we studied about lotus seed, that is get dispersed by the water currents. Now, next question is fill in the blanks with suitable words from the given box. So, dash helps the seed in protecting from physical damage. What it is talking about? It is talking about the outer coat, the seed coat. Okay. Now, let's go to the next page. Next is question is name the following. So the seeds that have 2 seeds leaf, what is it? These are dicot seeds. Dicot seeds. And they are also called dicotyledonous seeds. Next question is short answer questions. Name the different parts of seed. So first is the seed coat, next is the hilum, right? What next? The small opening, right? That helps the water to get inside, the micropyle, alright? So these are different parts of the seed. Next question is long answer questions. Draw neat and label diagram of seed showing its different parts, right? So we just discussed what are the 3 different parts. We have to neatly draw and label the diagram. Now let's do an activity. So what you have to do is collect different monocot and dicot seeds and collect more information about them, right? So by now you have understood what is monocot and dicot. Monocot is single seed and dicot the seeds which have natural separation between them, right? Now, so you have to collect them and collect more information about them. Next is plant some gram seeds in the soil in a pot. What are gram? The chana seeds, right? Observe them daily, provide them proper water and required conditions. Write your observation day by day. So this is a task for you. Put a gram seed inside the soil. Put some water, air is already there and sunlight is already there. Now, observe it daily and note your daily observation. What are the things that are changing in that area, right? Next question is prepare a colorful chart or collage showing different steps involved in agriculture, right? So we have studied the different steps of agriculture, right? From the steps of sowing, of preparation of the soil and till the storage part, right? So you have to make a flow chart, alright? Or else what you can do is make a scarecrow using waste material, right? So I hope this chapter is clear to you now. So based on your learnings from this chapter, you have to first revise it and do the rest of the exercise in your homework.